Hello, everyone, and welcome to DES 103. This is our week one. We will be talking about our beginning vector illustration class. I am Mrs. Woodland, and we are in March 2018. Thank you for joining me, whether you're here virtually or you're joining me from home. I just wanted to introduce myself briefly. I love graphic design, and I wanted to give you a quick overview about the class. So we'll kind of go through some things. All the meat and potatoes are in the syllabus, so you will be able to check that out and kind of read over it, make sure you know the policies. But we'll do a quick overview. But first I wanted to introduce myself. Hello, I'm residing in Northern California, so I'm on the Pacific Coast. I usually like to find out how many people are from the East Coast here because I know our class gets over kind of late. So let me know if I need to make any special accommodations for you. Looks like we've got some people coming in. And who do we have here? Is it Apple? Thank you for joining today. I think we're going to have a few other people kind of trickle in as we go through this. So let's talk about the information in our syllabus. So what we're going to be doing is talking about expectations. The discussions, there are quite a few things that aren't made clear on the discussion, so I want to make sure we lay that out so we get full credit for these discussions. These are great ways to get full points and make up for those daily checkpoints that we might have missed or not done so well on. And so I'll go over all the assignments in great detail. I will even demo them for us. You can expect in every lecture that I will go over the assignment, I will demonstrate how to do it, and I will answer any questions that you have on it, even the final project, so that there aren't any questions later on in the week. Now, if you come up, if you run into something or have questions along the way, you can always email me. But let's talk about these live sessions. So every Tuesday at this time, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we will have a live recorded session. And then on Thursdays at the same time, we will have a multi-session, which is usually kind of an open door policy. There is no lecture. It is not recorded. It's kind of my open office hours and your opportunity to come get some tutoring. It's kind of an open lab, so to speak. So I really want you to get the most out of this class, so come. So to incentivize you, if you come to the multi-sessions, I will give you a grade for your assignment on the spot. You can get feedback before you submit it. Then I might give you some changes to make, and then you could show me the changes, and then you'll get a grade right then and there. So a lot of students like this opportunity, this option of getting a grade, because then you don't have to wait all weekend until the next week to find out what you did on the assignment. And also you can get some pre-graded feedback before you submit it officially. So this ensures that you get an A or a full points on the assignment. So if you have any questions, though, the best contact methods for me are email. All of my personal information is in the syllabus under the contact information. Just make sure that you shoot me an email and we will set up a time to meet, or to call. We can talk over the phone. I like to meet over Zoom, which is what we're doing here, just my Zoom chat room. You have the link on the syllabus as well in the course homepage. So if you need to get a hold of me, we can set up a time for some tutoring. If our schedules do not work and the stars don't align for us, the learning coach is also available. I posted her information. Wanda Bryant is her name, and she is a terrific learning coach. She is here to help. Contact her if you need help on assignments. If you have questions about the software, anything course related, please ask her and she will help, and she will make time to meet with you. She is a great resource. There are also other resources like the Student Success Center. I don't know, have you had a chance to visit the Student Success Center at all? Have any of you had experience with it? There's usually a little stigma associated to the Student Success Center. Students think that if you are only the failing students or the students who are struggling go there. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Students who do the best in my class go to the Student Success Center quite often, even once a week, to work on assignments, to get pre-graded feedback on their assignments before they submit it. This is an excellent way to ensure that you pull out an A in this class. So please take the time to get familiar with it, even if you don't wind up using it this semester. All right, let's move. Are there any questions at all before we move on? I wanted to start a video and just say hello real quick. I like to introduce myself. Don't mind that big gigantic trampoline in the background. That was a Christmas present to my kids, and we grossly underestimated the size of that thing. So we have yet to take it down. So uh, people always get a crack out of it when it's sitting in our kitchen. So anyways, but it's good to have you guys, and I'm glad you're here. If there are any questions at any time, please just feel free to chime in, and I'd be more than happy to answer them. So let's talk about week one. I briefly introduced myself. I'm Mrs. Woodland, originally from Texas, and now I live in Northern California. So I am on the Pacific Coast. Where are you guys from? What time zone or state? Okay, so it's kind of a similar boat from New York. So we've got an East Coaster. I apologize for the lateness of the class. If you have to go at any time, I totally understand. But we appreciate you being here. Is it Sinra? Is that how you say it? Or am I butchering that? It's just a username. Oh, okay. Well, why don't you give me your name so that I can, I'll be able to know who I'm talking to. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we've got Heather and Apple. Well, welcome to class, and thank you for showing up. All right. Well, briefly, I mean, obviously you can read. I've been a graphic designer for quite a few years now. I love graphic design. Are you guys going into this as a hobby, or are you going to try to pursue this as a career? Okay, so Heather wants to go into web design. That's awesome. And then Apple, what are you hoping to do? So Apple was a nurse for 11 years, now pursuing graphic design as a career. Awesome. Let's go specifically into advertising. Advertising is a lot of fun. That is really exciting. Well, welcome. I'm glad that you're here and that we're able to jump into this. We're going to have some fun. The way I like to structure my classes, I try to get the housekeeping stuff out of the way real quick, but for the most part, I don't like to lecture. I like to demonstrate and work one-on-one in the software. So if you don't already have Illustrator pulled up, please do so. I like to invite my students to work alongside me. I like to usually do a quick demo, and then I will have the students do an exercise. You are more than welcome to share your screen. I'll ask for volunteers to share their screen and show me the result of that demo or that exercise. If you want to show off your work, that would be wonderful, but there will be no pressure. I won't specifically call on you if you feel uncomfortable. How do you get out of full screen? You'll hit the escape button at the top left of your keyboard. See if that works, Apple. Does that work if you hit escape? All right. So we just found out where in the country you guys are from. So, which state. So, what Adobe products have you learned so far? What are you familiar with? And then I want you to put a number next to the software that basically 1 through 10, 10 being expert, 1 being very beginner. Where are you in terms of the Adobe products that you've learned? Okay, so we've got some Photoshop. We've got a Photoshopper. That's wonderful. Photoshop's a lot of fun. You can do some really neat effects in Photoshop. Okay, so everyone's pretty familiar with Photoshop, Illustrator. Okay, we're kind of a beginner in Illustrator as well. Truth be told, I actually didn't learn how to design in Illustrator until quite a few years after I was already in school, and when I had switched my career choice, and Illustrator was really challenging for me. I remember it just being not as friendly as InDesign. I love InDesign, but Illustrator, the more I worked with it, I realized its capabilities are endless. It is a really neat program once you get the hang of it. So don't get too discouraged. Illustrator is a great program. All right. And then does everyone have Creative Cloud updated on your computer? That's my next question. Great. Okay. Should be updated. Okay, awesome. That means you guys are ahead of the game and we can talk about class. All right, so let's talk about discussion posts. I sent out a welcome email and I talked a little bit about what's expected in the discussion post, but first things first, you are graded on whether or not you submit by Wednesday. Usually Saturday is our deadline to get everything in, including discussion posts, but Wednesday you have to have your initial post submitted. And then by Saturday, 2 or more follow-up posts to your peers are required. So one post needs to be pretty substantive, and it doesn't have to be your first post, but it does need to be a really good, healthy size post. And what do I mean by that? Well, I need you to have it to be at least 150 words, and I will be checking word count. And please make sure to format it in APA, and then please cite it. Make sure that your citation is correctly formatted. There's a lot of APA citation generators out there that can help you. Also, the Student Success Center can help you if you're not familiar with how to do that. So make sure that you cite it correctly so you can get full points. There are 2 parts of the rubric, the grading rubric, that you get docked points if it's not done correctly. So just make sure it's an easy way to get points. So just make sure you do it correctly. There's lots of resources in the classroom, course information, general guidelines, but please note that if you miss a discussion post, I don't accept late posts. And the reason being is that discussion posts are like taking attendance in class. So this is a way that I can take attendance to see who's being active, who's participating regularly, because you need to participate on more than just one day of the week. So you also get points for that. But if you're absent that week or absent in the discussion post, there's no real way to make that up because the discussion's over. So that's all in the syllabus. So please be aware of that policy. But speaking of late work, assignments and assessments, they are all due on Saturday before midnight Mountain Time. So please make sure you know what time it is in your time zone. If something happens that is going to keep you from submitting your assignment on Saturday, please reach out to me so that we can work something out. Not all extensions can be given. In fact, I think only unless it's like medical reasons or something like that, or something pretty severe, do they allow me to extend deadlines. But you do have up to 1 week that you can turn in your work late. And sometimes I'm able to waive that if we're in constant communication. But if you email me the night before or the day of and say, something happened and I can't get it in, I'm not able to help you then, okay? By then it's too late. So make sure that you just stay in contact with me and we'll work something out. Before the project is due, we'll make arrangements. I want you to be successful and I want you to know that I'm here for you. So we will make things work as best we can. I don't have a whole lot of leeway with the college policy, but I can do my best and I promise you I will. So after the deadline, please know that is the deadline, so your work will be penalized for being late, but again, it's only 20% deduction in the grade, and that is way better than a 0. So just make sure you stay consistent and submit the assignments on time as best you can, because we don't want to fall behind. These mods move so quick, so it's really important that we make sure we don't fall behind. Any questions about assignments or assessments? Okay, well, one thing I like to do, and not all instructors do this, and nor am I required to do this, I just like to do it because I think this is how we learn best, and that is I will encourage a single resubmission of your project. So you get one time to resubmit to me. So if you didn't get the grade that you loved or that you thought you deserved or that you really worked hard on this project but you just fell short, I want to give you a chance to make the changes and resubmit for a better grade, for more points. So that so just know that the first grade that you get isn't necessarily the final grade. I will give you an opportunity to resubmit it, and what you'll do is resubmit that assignment with the next week's work on that next week's deadline. Okay, no late resubmissions can be accepted. So once you've gotten the grading feedback, you have 1 week to get that assignment to me. So that next Saturday, you'll have a chance to submit. Absolutely. Yes, you never get deducted. Your grade will never go down. If the resubmission is a lower grade, hopefully not, because what I do, Apple, is a good question. I leave comments on the PDFs on your assignments, and I tell you exactly what needs to be improved. If you're completely off, then yes, you'll probably just keep the higher grade. But hopefully with these resubmissions, the whole point is to improve on your work. So hopefully with each resubmission, we're improving on the design, on the layout, on the execution, and using the tools. So with each one, it's my hope that you're getting better and not worse. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a good question. You will have the opportunity to keep that grade. In a really weird case, if that was the situation, the resubmission was not nearly as good as the first draft, then yes, what I would do is not offer any points. I would just keep your grade as is, but you'll never get a lower grade. Does that help answer the question? That's a really good question. Awesome. Okay, keep those questions coming. Okay, so basically the whole idea here is to use the critiques that I'm going to give you to make your work better, okay? So you'll take the feedback from the rubric, and then also on the assignments, if it requires you to submit a JPEG or a PDF, I will make comments on it, and then I will submit it back to you. So you'll just download that from the comment section in the grading in the grade book, okay? All right, let's keep going. Recorded lecture. This will all be posted under the live sessions and recording section of the course homepage. Does everyone know where the live sessions, where to find it? It's the same place that you go to find the Zoom link to our class. It's also one of the first icons on the course homepage, labeled live sessions. So this will be recorded. I will also post it under the announcements section of the course homepage. So just make sure that you check out the announcements the following day. It does take quite a long time to upload. So tonight I will be uploading it, but it won't post until tomorrow morning. So just keep an eye on that, okay? All right, by tomorrow morning, you should have the recording up. And let's see. Okay, so this time is wrong, so I apologize. So we are 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And that goes for, that's Tuesdays, and that's also, there we go, that's the correct link. So that's Tuesdays, and that will be our live lecture. Now the multi-session is also the same time, okay? Let's move on. Oh, and all this information is in the syllabus. So you can just email me, or you can even text or call. Just be aware of my office hours. I put that in the syllabus, the course information, my office time. You can text me and I will always get back to you. That's also a good way. All right, are there any questions as we move forward? Nope, okay. All right, let's talk about this week. So this week we're going to be talking about how to create and modify multiple artboards. We're going to identify the basic selection and move tools, and we're going to utilize 3 basic shape drawing tools. This is fun. We're going to get to draw in Illustrator today, and hopefully you have as much fun as I do. We're going to talk about the similarities and the differences between what raster artwork is and what vector artwork is. And then we're going to identify between scalable and pixel-based art. So we'll get into the meat and potatoes of this, but I just want to make sure everyone has Illustrator up. Is that right? Okay, perfect. So basically, week 1 overview here, you're about to embark on a really exciting journey. And this journey is in the Design Worlds industry. The Design Worlds industry standard software for creating icons, drawings, and much, much more, logos. So we call this Adobe Illustrator. And in preparation for this journey, I want you to consider, what do you do with the 24 hours you have in each day? Have you ever thought about it? What do you do with your 24 hours? I know a good 8 of those are spent sleeping for me on a good day. Okay, hold on. I'm going to play a video for you. All right. Let me skip this here. And let me stop the share. Here we go. All right. If my internet can load it.
If you only have 24 hours in a day, your success is dependent upon how you use the 24. You got to hear me. People talk about Oprah Winfrey, Ted Turner, Warren Buffett. Listen to me. I don't care how much money you make. You only get 24 hours in a day. And the difference between Oprah and the person that's broke is Oprah uses her 24 hours wisely. That's it. Listen to me. That's it. You get 24. I don't care if you broke, you grew up broke. I don't care if you grew up rich. I don't care if you're in college, you're not in college. You only get 24 hours. And I blew up literally. I went from being a high school dropout to selling 6,000 books in less than 6 months. What happened in my 24 hours? I was like, okay, Eric, you got to get a grip on your 24 hours because you're about to be broke for the rest of your life. And this is all I need you to do for me. I can tell you all about your life if you just write down your 24-hour schedule for me. You let me look at it. I can tell you where you're going to be in 5 years. I can tell you where you're going to be in 10 years. I can tell you where you're going to be in 20 years if you keep that schedule.
All right, so that's a little motivational speech there.
If you only have 24 hours.
Let's pause this. Okay, and then the other video I wanted to show you, nope, we'll stop there. Okay, perfect. All right, so what did you think about that video? Any thoughts? Have you seen that one before? It's inspiring. Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Okay, good. All right, so here's the thing. I want to just get you excited about exploring how important each hour of the day truly is and how to best balance our prioritize the work that you're giving, because I know this is not the only class you're taking and this is not the only thing going on in your life right now. So I just want you to stay motivated and know that if we just prioritize our time just a little bit, we can make it successful. So please, let's turn to the next slide here. We're gonna talk about our course media. Check it out under the week 1. Let's see. We'll kind of skip through this introduction. Okay, let's talk about raster versus vector. So what I want you to do, I want you to hop onto Google, and we're going to do a little exercise. So I want you to hop onto Google, and I want you to find a picture. It can be clip art. It can be any kind of picture. It could be a logo. I just want you to find something and just type in the chat box once you have it. Just say, I have it, or I'm good, or ready for the next assignment. Yes, so, well, we're not going to be looking for raster or vector. I just want you to find a picture of anything, obviously appropriate, but it can be clip art, it can be, we're not looking for vectors right now. I'm just, probably just a raster image is what I'd like to look at. Good question. So what we're going to do is just find, it can be a logo, it can be, if you're into advertising, it'd be advertising if it's a web page. You just save it to your computer. All right, so we've got one. Okay, awesome. So what I want you to do is pull it into your Adobe Illustrator. So before we do this exercise, I will assume that you know how to set up a new document, but for those of you who may not know how, let's go to File at the top of our screen. I'm going to go to, let's see, I'm going to switch gears here. widen this up. Okay, so we're going to set up a new document. So the assignment one calls for an 8.5 by 11. So you'll go to the top left of your screen, go to File, New, and then mine does a lot of thinking before it'll have a box pop up. But once it does, this is where we're going to enter in our information, like the measurements, the dimensions of our page, and then other information like the orientation. So think of things in terms of Word. We're all familiar with Word, how it works. So you'll enter in your width and your height. Make sure that the unit of measurement is on inches. And then you'll pick an orientation. Portrait is what we're going to be doing our assignments in. So the orientation will stay at portrait. You can either choose landscape or portrait, but in this case, we're going to just select portrait. We need 3 artboards to set up our assignment 1. And then all the other information can just stay the same. Don't forget to give it a name up here at the top. We'll name all of our assignments in the same format. So it'll be DES 103. This is assignment 1 underscore, and then your name, Mrs. Woodland, and then hit create. Nope, that's exactly right. So 8.5 by 11 is perfect. That's exactly what they've asked us to do. So that is just great. And now if you zoom out a little bit, you'll see how your artboards are organized. Now there are multiple ways that you can edit these artboards. Artboards can be edited by clicking on our artboard tool on our toolbar. Now in Illustrator, you have a bar here. It's either floating or it's up here at the top. Just depending on your preferences, it will be located in one of those 2 spots. But mine in this case is floating, so all the way at the bottom there is an icon called Artboard Tool. And then if you hover over these tools, in parentheses it will give you the keyboard shortcut, which is kind of neat because if you want to get really good at toggling back and forth between tools without having to use your mouse, you can just memorize those keyboard shortcuts. So that's kind of a nifty way to see. But you'll click on this Artboard tool, and what it does is it pulls up your artboard. It highlights your artboard. You can do 1 or 2 things with this. You can hold down. Oh, okay. So good question, Heather. So if you go to File, New. So Heather's asking, how did we have multiple artboards? In our assignment 1, we're required to have 3. So the way that you do that is here, right next to your orientation. It's on the right side of your orientation. Do you see that? You'll just specify how many artboards you want. And in this case, we need 3. Does that help, Heather? Awesome. Okay. So with this artboard tool, when you click on it on the toolbar, it will give you an option to be able to move it around. You can also resize it. And notice the measurements here as I'm moving it. You know, they change. They're kind of in live. They're live being changed. Or you can adjust the width and height here in the boxes up top. You can rearrange them, so you can rearrange your artboards in vertical or horizontal or grid layouts. So this will allow you to change the orientation of how that they're laid out. So if you just want them lined up, the layout order will allow you to change which way you want to see it. You can move artwork with the artboard. Yes, we want that. And then you can adjust the spacing between your artboards. So if you want more space, you can increase your spacing. If you want less space between artboards, you can adjust it here. So this is really fun. So here I adjusted the layout of mine. So it looks a little bit more like InDesign does with the page layout. That's kind of neat. But the neat thing about these using the artboard tool is that you can draw just about any size artboard you want. Why is this handy in Illustrator, do you think? Why would you need this kind of a tool? It's not like InDesign where your specific pages, but rather you can have multiple artboards in one. Well, for one thing, if you were working with a client who needed an ad designed, but they also needed business cards and then they needed a logo design, this is a great way to keep their files all organized in the same file. So here I would have their ad, and then here I'd have their logo, And then below it would be their business card template. I can keep all the client files in the same Illustrator file and just use what artboard I need at the time. So this is a great way to stay organized and keep all of your client information or your school project information all in the same file. Another neat tool is if you go to Window, go drop down, click on Artboards. It will have an artboard box pop up, and you can make adjustments here as well. So you can rearrange the layout here at the bottom left. You can also name your artboards, and it numbers them for you. When you click the artboard tool, you'll notice how depending on what artboard you're selecting, it will tell you what number you're on, which artboard you're on, because it can get kind of confusing when you have, say, 100 artboards going on, and you need to be able to locate a certain artboard, and or you want to upload it. This is a great way to kind of keep it organized. All right. Are there any questions about artboards? If you want to delete an artboard, you'll just select your artboard tool and click on the artboard that you want to, when it's highlighted, you can just hit delete. That's one way. If you want to create a new one, here at the bottom, create new artboard, and it will automatically add one to the bottom here for you. The artboards panel, that's a great question. So the artboards panel in most every tool can be found under your window drop-down menu. So find window at the very top of your screen. Go all the way down. So everything down here is in alphabetical order. So look for artboards right here. So you'll make sure that's selected. If it is selected, that means it's already open on your computer. So it looks like this. So you'll have your artboards. You should have 1, 2, 3. You can change the orientation like we talked about, the layout order. In this case, if I click on this, it changes the way it's laid out. I liked the 1, 2, 3 in order, so that's the way I'm going to do it. Or you can do it side by side. That's kind of nice too. 1, 2, 3. There's different ways you can rearrange it. It's just however you like to do it. The neat thing is you can kind of customize this to be set up however is best for you. Does that help, Heather? Were you able to find it? Okay, great. Great question. Any other questions while we're here? Okay, so if no questions, we're going to talk about raster versus vector. Does anyone know the difference? If you have looked ahead and you know, if you think you know the answer, please let me know. What is raster versus vector art to you? Because this is a big part of our discussion one. We're going to be talking about this quite heavily this week, and so I want to make sure that we all have a basic understanding of it. So Apple says rasters are made out of pixels, vectors are made out of mathematical equations. That couldn't be more, that is just right. That's exactly right. Exactly. So how do we tell the difference? Well, I want you to grab that picture that you found on Google, and I want you to pull it into Illustrator. Do we know how to do that? I'm trying to find my picture. If you're on a Mac and you have it saved somewhere, you can just click and drag it to place it in Illustrator. Or another way to do that, is go to File, Place, and then you can find where you saved it and add it that way. So Apple's exactly right. Rasters are made out of little pixels. And we will see what that means here in just a second. Okay, so my computer's super slow. Yeah, you'll find your file, you'll hit OK, and it will place it for you in Illustrator. So I want you to place your image because later I'm going to ask if you want to share it. Okay, so basically a vector graphic uses math to draw shapes using points, lines, and curves. It's mathematical. Whereas the raster image of, say, a 1 inch by 1 inch square at 300 dpi will have 300 individual pieces of information. a vector image will only contain 4 points, one for each corner, and the computer uses math to connect the dots, and it fills in all of the missing information. So that's kind of the scientific explanation. What are the most common types of vector graphics? Can you think? Any ideas? What would we need vector graphics for? Logos, excellent. Yes, you will always want to, we always design logos in vector format, never raster, because, and why do you think that is? Why do you think we should have logos in vector format and not raster? Exactly. Apple's on fire today. So you can scale them up without distorting the quality. Excellent. Because if I were to take my logo, it might look fine on a business card, but if that company wants to put their logo on a billboard, well, now you're just blowing things up several times at a time, and eventually it will get too pixelated. So I just want to make sure that we kind of have that basic understanding. Yeah, Heather, she is pretty fast. Sometimes there's a delay too, so I have to wait a little bit longer to wait for the response. All right, so let's watch what happens here. I'm going to get my magnifying glass, and I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to zoom in, and I want you to practice doing this. Get your magnifying glass, place that picture that you found on Google, and start going, clicking in. Now, I don't have to click too many times before you can already start to see that these pixels, this picture is looking very pixelated, and you can see these pixels. And the more that I zoom in, the fuzzier this image becomes. And that's because this is a raster image. So you can already tell. And what we'd like to say is this is a low-res image as well, because if you can already tell it's pixelated before you zoom in. Yeah, so it's going to be a little tricky. All right, so yours is keeping the quality. Okay. Oh, so you got a vector image. Okay, yeah. So now let's look at a vector image. So so actually, Heather, do you want to share your screen and show us your vector image? Show us the difference. We've already seen this pixelated image. Would you want to share your screen and show us your vector image? I'll go ahead and stop my share. If you want to click on share screen and then select Illustrator, perfect. So Heather picked a vector image. So now she's going to zoom in, and a vector image should not be pixelated at all. See, this looks like a raster image to me, because if it's vector, it won't have any of those pixels. Yeah, but we can already see that this raster image here is, you picked the same image. That's funny. Good job. So this is a good example of a raster image. Now, if it was vector, I'll show you the difference between vector. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, so let's just show you. I'll grab this circle here, and I'm going to give it a color. And I'm going to zoom in on this circle. Okay, this circle is in vector format. And already you can tell it's much more clear than the picture above. So I'm going to grab my magnifying glass, and I'm going to just zoom in. And the more I go, the cleaner it is. So you don't see any of those pixels, and that's because it is a vector image. All right. I'll even kind of zoom in a little bit more here. So as I zoom in, there are no pixels on this circle. It is perfectly round. It is perfectly clean, and that is because this is in vector format, which is why we use Illustrator to create those vectors instead of using a raster image. So the pros of vector images, well, infinitely scalable. We just talked about how we can make them any size, small or large, and it won't affect the quality of the image. Through the wonders of math, which I don't claim to understand, vector files can be scaled up or down as much as you want without losing any image quality. whereas a raster image must guess the colors of missing pixels when you're sizing up. A vector image simply uses the original math to create a consistent shape every time. It's also smaller file size. If you use a vector, it is a smaller file size than maybe a raster image would. Also, another reason why we use another file that we use vectors, a popular vector file format that we use is EPS, AI, that's Illustrator, and PDF, okay? And the most common types of vector graphics are fonts and logos. We'll use those all over the place in this, well, not in this class, but in this series of classes that we're taking in this degree. All right, so the cons of vector images. Can you think of anything that would be maybe a con? So one of the things that I thought of was limited details, because, yeah, exactly, less detail. So because of the mathematical way that a vector remembers data, they're not practical for complex images. So everything has to be very simple. Anything that requires exact coloring. So sure, you can recreate basic color gradients, but you'll never be able to match the color detail available in a raster image, where each individual pixel can be its own individual shade. And limited effects. So by definition, vector graphics are created from simple points in lines. So this means that they can't handle certain styling effects. So there are some limitations to vector graphics, but the pros outweigh the cons here, and you will always want to design in vector format for clients. Raster really doesn't have a place here in graphic design. We're here to create. I guess if you're into photography, then yes, you'll be using rasters. But while Adobe Illustrator is primarily a vector-based program, it has some raster-only elements available, such as drop shadows or outer glows. But Adobe Photoshop now kind of allows you to work with vector-based objects as well, called smart objects, and that makes the program even more fun. So don't be too confused. This is just adding flexibility within design programs, and this doesn't override the traditional wisdom that raster equals photographs, which equals great color detail, but you can't enlarge without becoming blurry. And then vector equals fonts and logos equals the ability to enlarge without losing quality, but limited color detail. So that would probably be the one con to it. Okay, so let's get into playing around with our shapes, shall we? We kind of have a basic understanding. All right. Okay, so what I want you to do is grab your rectangle tool, and I want you to practice just drawing a rectangle. I want you to also practice holding down the shift button when you click and drag. When you hold down the shift button, what do you notice? When you take a shape and you hold down, shift keeps the proportions of the shape on the same on all sides. That's exactly right. I can resize up and I can resize down. By holding shift, it constrains those proportions. Now, why is this important? Well, it gets especially important when we are drawing shapes that require, like a circle. If you want to make a perfect circle, simply holding down click and drag is not going to give me a perfect circle. So I need to hold down shift as I click and drag to create that perfect circle. So all the proportions are the same. That goes for resizing an object in Illustrator. That goes for resizing pictures in art in Illustrator and InDesign as well. Anything that you have to resize, please remember, hold down shift. You will get docked points if your shapes are skewed in any way. So I want you to practice using a circle. By holding down on your shapes tool on the toolbar, you'll notice that there's some hidden tools. Click and hold, and that will allow you to select these tools. So I want you to click on the ellipse tool, and I want you to hold down shift, click, and drag. And I want you to practice drawing a full circle. If you'd like to share your screen, just let me know in the chat box, and then I'll stop my share and let you show off a little bit. Also, I want you to practice using the star tool. So if you just simply select the star tool and click anywhere on your canvas or your artboard, it will ask you, what do you want the radius to be? You don't have to change those values right now. All you need to know right now is the point value. So how many points do you want your star to have? Well, if I have 3 points, what shape is that going to make? Triangle, right? If I click again, this time I think the assignment calls for a 5-point star. I'll click OK. And now I have made a perfect 5-point star. I'll click on star again and click on my artboard once. Then I can adjust this to be a 7-point star. All of a sudden, I'm making some stars, and this is looking really nice. Click once. Now I think I need a 10-point star. So I just adjust the points here. I don't adjust any other values, no radiuses. There you go. There's my 10-point star. Now, if I were to adjust the radius, if I wanted to go up or down, so if I wanted to increase this, my star will look a little bit different. It starts getting a little bit more sunbursty, I guess you could say. So you can get different effects by adjusting the radius of your star. There we go. You see that? Get lots of different effects. Okay, so I want you to take a minute and I want you to draw some shapes using your star, your circle, your rectangle, and I also want you to use the polygon tool. You can click the polygon tool and specify how many sides you want. Do you want it to be a hexagon or an octagon? And you can click OK. And we all know that the hexagon has 6 sides and the octagon has 8, right? I've been going over that with my daughter's preschool homework. So there we go. So you've got your polygons. You have practiced with the star tool, the ellipse tool, and the rectangle tool. And I want you to practice resizing these as well. Do we just click and drag to resize? No, no, no. We hold down Shift, click, and drag, just like this. And this constrains the proportions so we can enlarge them or make them smaller without skewing the shape. We don't want to skew or squish. That's no good. All right, any questions? All right, and for you, all right, does anyone want to share their screen and show their shapes? Or would you like more time to play around? Okay, Heather has volunteered. Thank you, Heather. I'll stop the share. If you'll go ahead and click on share screen, you can show us what you drew. Let's see. And then maybe you can demonstrate holding down Shift as you resize your objects. That would be great. Wonderful. So I see the polygon tool has been used, stars, circles everywhere. Can you demonstrate how to draw a perfect circle? Could you do that for us? So she's grabbing her ellipse tool, holding down Shift. She'll click and drag. Excellent job. Oh, hold down Shift. Go ahead and undo that. Yeah, hold down Shift, then release your mouse before you let go of the keyboard. So hold down Shift the whole time. Let's try that again. Hold down Shift, release your mouse. There you go. Excellent. That looks great. So same thing goes for the other shapes too. Just remember, don't release the Shift button too soon. But looks like you've got plenty of shapes on there, so that looks great. Thank you so much, Heather. Does anyone else want to share before we move on? I think this is the fun part, just getting to share what you're doing. Because I guarantee you other students are watching this from home, whether via the recording, and they're either running into the same problems we are, or they are just as impressed with what you guys can do. All right, Apple, go ahead. I will close out my program, and then you can go ahead and hit share screen. So let's see what Apple drew. Oh, I'm sorry, my sound went out. I apologize. So Apple, would you like to share your screen? Okay. Sorry you got kicked out. I thought that was weird. Okay, so click on the share screen icon if you know where that is. You see that? And then select Illustrator. Do you see that? The two windows. Let's see, it's got the pyramid and the sun. It takes a while to get used to sharing a screen, but once you do, it's really fun. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so let's take a look at our shapes. Very good. I see your perfect circle, see the perfect square and the polygon, and even the stars are perfect in proportion. Very good, Apple. And then could you show us how to resize something by constraining the proportions? If you grab your selection tool, yep, hold down Shift and expand. Excellent job. So by holding down Shift, she was able to click and drag by not skewing that shape. Excellent job. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. So that reminds me, looking at Apple's, at Apple's screen, if the black arrow here is our selection tool, and this will help you move objects around. You will make sure you have the black arrow selected every time you need to move an object or an image or anything in Illustrator. But if you click this direct selection tool, this allows you to manipulate these little anchor points that you see on your circle. Also, if you click on a straight edged object, you'll notice there's these little circles in each corner of your straight edged object. So in this square, do you see the top, bottom, left, right, these little circles? If you click and hold or click and drag, it will adjust the roundness of your corners. So that's kind of a neat way to get a different effect. You see that? By clicking and dragging, you can adjust the corners. Now, if you hold down Shift, you can select just one to manipulate, if you just want to manipulate one. There's lots of different things you can do with these shapes to give them some character. All right, so now Heather's asking, so you want to change the color of a shape that's no longer selected. How can you do that? Yeah, how do I do it in the corners? Lots of questions, huh? Okay, so let's cover the color question first. So if you go to Window, down by, let's see, Color Guide, or sorry, Color, make sure Color is selected. So Window, Color. and it will look like this. Okay, you have your, we call it the color picker. Here you can pick any colors on the CMYK spectrum here. So you can select on your color picker what color you want to change. Make sure at the bottom of your toolbar there are two boxes. One is a frame and one is the inside or the fill of the box, okay? Whichever one is in front is the one that the color is going to be changed to. So you want to make sure that your fill is changed. Now, if you click on this frame here, which is orange in my case, and then click down below to set it to transparent or no stroke. You can also adjust this here at the top, where this will allow me to set the stroke to transparent. So we have no stroke. We don't want any stroke. And in fact, the assignment asks us to take off the stroke on our shapes. So if you have any sort of stroke, and you'll know what that is. See on my orange circle, it doesn't look like I have a stroke, but if I click it, here down below at the bottom of my toolbar, it's showing I have a white stroke. So I need to go turn that off. So up here, the top of my Illustrator screen, I'm going to click on transparent or no fill, and then it now takes off my stroke. So to pick colors, you can double click on this fill box here, and you can select any color you want. You can move this color picker up and down. So say I want purple, or I want a really hot bright pink, or maybe a red. I can either adjust it on the color picker or select it here in the screen. Or if you have exact values, RGB, you can enter in the values, or you can enter in your CMYK values or your web color values. So there's other places that you can select certain values if you want to do that, or you can just click, say I want a nice purple shade. I'm just going to click this one, hit OK, and it will automatically change my shape color. Okay, now let's see, what else do we want to go over? Show options. Okay, here's also another way that we can adjust our coloring too. Now, if you like this color, say you like the shade a lot, right at the top of your Illustrator under the fill box here at the top, you can click on New Swatch, and it will add that. It will ask you, okay, do you want to add this swatch to your color library here? And you can just say yes. So add to my library, and you can hit OK. So you can even customize swatches, but we won't get into the coloring too much in this class right now. Right now we're just practicing changing the colors of our shapes. So if you want to draw 3 different shapes and give each shape a different color, you want it blue, green, red, pink, yellow, or white. Pick whatever color you're in the mood for. All right, and then you can even customize the color by using these sliders to make something either darker or lighter, a little bit more lime green than teal. You have your option here to kind of add in different color values to your shape. Okay, so Heather, you're not seeing that top panel. All right, let's go ahead and share your screen, Heather, and I will direct you where to go. Okay, so what I want you to do is grab your selection tool, which is the black arrow, and click on a shape. There you go. Okay, so do you see your color box over here? That is your color, yeah, and that's how you'll be adjusting colors. If you're looking for your swatches, go to the top window drop-down menu and click on swatches all the way at the bottom. Lucky for us, this is alphabetical because there's so many. So that's your panel that you're looking for. You can adjust how your panels are laid out and displayed if you go into preferences and your view. But right now, we can just work with this. So this is the same thing that I was working in. So good question. All right, so you can practice. What I want you to do is practice taking the stroke off of your shapes though, okay? We want to take off the stroke, and that goes for everybody watching this at home. You will get deductive points if there's any stroke on there, so go ahead and take it off now. Ask that question if you don't see how to do that. Also, Heather was asking how I rounded the corners. On any straight-edged shape, you are given the option to round the corners. You click on your direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, and if you click and hold, you can click and drag these little circles in the corner of your shape. It will give you a very dramatic look, or you can just do very subtle look. You could also click and hold, just click and select one of them, and that will allow you a really neat shape. You can kind of mess around with what effect that gives you, but that is how you adjust the corners of straight edge shapes. We won't need that for this assignment, but it's just neat to know how to do. Okay, good question, Apple. Okay, a stroke, that's a great question. So Apple's asking, what is a stroke? A stroke is the edge or the border of your shape. So look at my nifty, oh, let's make it yellow so we can see this. So look at my yellow circle, okay? My yellow circle, the fill is yellow. That's what color I filled my circle with, okay? So that's the fill box. The fill box is down here at the bottom of my toolbar. It's right down here. Do you see that yellow square? Does everyone see that? Okay, so that's my fill box. Even if I hover over it, it says fill. My stroke box is the one behind it, stroke. So if I were to give my stroke box a black stroke, do you see that border? Do you see it? I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit. That is my stroke. Now, a stroke can be any size. Most often, our Illustrator will default our shapes to have a subtle stroke on there. So to take that off, we just click on that no stroke, give it that little red slash in the middle, means none or no fill. Yeah, it's an outline, exactly. So we'll just turn that stroke off by clicking none. All right, and we want to make sure that's turned off for all of our shapes in assignment 1. We don't want a stroke for that, but we do want different fill colors. So have fun with this. Pick your favorite colors. Think of something you can make with those shapes. All right, so let's see. We demoed how to create a 5-pointed star, a 7-pointed star, and a 10-pointed star. We also demoed how to do a triangle. And then we are going to practice giving each of your shapes a different fill color with no outline. Okay, we talked about how to do that. We're going to arrange the shapes into an interesting design on the artboard. So the first assignment on artboard 1, it calls for you to do 2-inch by 2-inch drawings of a square and a circle, which we did. So I've got my circle and my square. Here we go, 2-inch by 2-inch. And if you click on the shape up here at the top, you'll see that the dimensions are displaying, so you can make sure you have it correctly. That's how I'm able to tell, did you draw it correctly? And don't eyeball it. Use the shape tool for this. So click once on the artboard and give it the dimensions and then hit OK, and it will automatically draw it for you. So you don't have to eyeball that. Then you want to arrange your shapes in interesting design. So see what you come up with. And that's artboard 1. So we're going to move on to artboard 2. I won't demo how to do, you can see what I did on mine. Let's go to artboard 1 here. So artboard 1 is this one. Except my square is a little too big. I need to do a 2-inch by 2-inch square. There we go. There's my square. And the circle's too big. So I'll just do a 2-inch by 2-inch circle. Perfect, that can be the moon. I've drawn a triangle. Be my house. How do you see the dimensions? Great question. If you click on your shape here at the top, it will have dimensions. If you don't see that, then you might need to click on window and then go to, let's see, is it object? I think that's it. Do you see the dimensions when you select your shape? Okay, so go ahead and share your screen. Okay, and now click on If you would go to your window drop-down menu, go to workspace up at the top. Sorry, all the way at the top, right before you get to your tools. Yep, right there. And click on, which one? Maybe Essentials Classic. There you go. So now click on a shape. There's your dimensions. Do you see the properties? Right there, your star is selected and it gives you the height and the width of your star. That's where you'll be looking. So if you draw a square, you will be able to tell what shape that is now. So your properties are right there. Yeah, exactly, right there. It gives X and Y coordinates too, but we just want to look at the height and the width. Does that help? All right, and then on these, remember they all have to have the outline turned off. And then the fill, you'll want to give them a fill that you can see. Obviously, give it some color. You want to make sure, have fun with this assignment. Make sure you're having fun. All right, and then artboard 2, you want 2 or more rectangles, 2 or more ellipses, 2 or more stars, 2 or more polygons. And look at the student examples for this because the student examples, they kind of went into a lot of detail. Here's a quick and dirty little picture I drew, just kind of doing flowers with the triangles and the rectangles and the sun by using the different stars. As you can see, if I pull them out from the sun, I was using stars to create that little effect. Okay, so that's all you have to do for Artboard 2. Now for, let's see, Artboard 3, we're going to kind of get into how to do this demo. This is going to be a little bit more time consuming. So what I want you to do, we're going to go into our break. It's our 10-minute break now. When we come back, we're going to go over the Pathfinder tools, and we're going to talk about how to, I'll demo this last part of the assignment. What I want you to do is go and pick a picture that you want to practice on. I'm going to be working from the cat image, and I honestly don't remember if it was like cat 1 or 2 or 3, but this is the one I'm going to be demoing. And then what I want you to do is pick something, and we're going to practice on our third artboard. Are there any questions? Not at the moment? Okay, cool. All right, well, go stretch your legs, get a drink, and then meet me back here in 10 minutes, and we'll start on this the second half of our lecture, and then we will let you guys go get some rest. All right. We will see you guys back in 10 minutes. Okay, so we are back and ready to start the second part of our assignment. This is going to be on artboard number 3, and we're going to be learning how to create layers and place the JPEGs on our layer. So if you'll open up Illustrator, and I think over the break you were supposed to grab one of the JPEGs, so download one of them from under the assignment. You have quite a few to choose from, but I'll show you how to set this up real quick, and then we're going to jump into how to use the Pathfinder tool because you will need that for a portion of this assignment. So if you go to Window, drop-down menu, click on Layer. It will bring up your Layers box, and I'm going to click out of all this other stuff. Here, let's see. Can you guys see my Illustrator okay? Is that coming in? Click here. There we go. All right, so now you've got your layer and you have another layer called template. So the way layers work is it's kind of like an onion. You got to peel back the layers. Depending on what layer you're on, it will allow you to do certain things. So my layer, template layer, is the first layer, and it's marked by this red color here. If I display my template layer, so if I turn the eye on, you can toggle visibility, meaning you can click it on or click it off. And when I turn off the visibility, it's still there. It just means you can't see it. So it's just hiding it temporarily. Yes, and yours will only show layer 1 until you add another one. Exactly. So the way that we're going to do this is, let me show you real quick. This layer here. All right, so I'm going to go to this next artboard. Copy it. All right. So now I'm going to go here, and I'm going to place my picture on the artboard. I'm going to name the layer template. You can click a new layer by clicking on Create New Layer. Double-clicking this layer will bring up your layer options box. This is where you can give it the name template. In this case, you'll only have 2 layers. I just have layer 3 because I already have my 2. And then click on template right here. You can choose a color to display. So anything on this layer will display in this color. So the bounding box will be in this color. Right now, my bounding box is in red. That's for the, so you can color code your layers so you know which one you're on. Then dim the image to about 50% so you can still see it, but you are able to see your work over it. So we'll hit OK. And now this layer now becomes the template layer. All right. You can lock the layer and it will make sure that you don't move it with your selection tool. So now you can't move it, but you can unlock it and then you can move it again. So what this does is it's nice because you can be working on this layer, but you don't accidentally select it when you're placing your images and your work over it. Okay? So that makes it nice and helpful. Are there any questions about your 2 layers? So you should have 2 layers. So and if you have an extra layer, just delete it. So you should have a template layer and a layer 1. Your template layer will display the image, and your layer 1 will be your shapes. Any questions on how to set up your layers? So you'll create a new layer and place one of the JPEGs provided under the assignment 1. Then you'll convert the new layer to a template layer and rename it template, which we did. And then you're going to create a second new layer and name it final artwork. So this layer 1, whoops. This layer 1 will become final artwork. Good question, Heather. So the way that you convert it to a template layer is once you have your layer, you'll double click on it. Don't double click on the text because it will just make it editable. We want to double click on the side of that layer. Click on, just check mark the box template, name it template, dim the image to about 50%. You can go lower if you need, and then hit OK. Did you see how we did that? So I'll type that in the message. So yeah, perfect. So you'll convert it to a template layer. Very simple there. Then using the Move, Shape, and Pathfinder tools, I want you to recreate this artwork and then finish the artwork by adding your own fills and strokes. So before we get into this, what I want to do is show you what the Pathfinder tool does. We're going to be using the Pathfinder tool quite a bit in Illustrator, especially in logo design. You'll be using it. Let me show you a little bit. Have you had experience with the Pathfinder tool? Does everyone know what it is? Okay, so this will be our introduction to it. So follow along with me, if you will. What we're going to do is draw a circle. I want you to draw a circle and a star, and I want you to make them a different color, okay, so that you can tell what's what. All right, and I want you to place, we're going to need probably, let's do about 10 of these. And the way that you can select more than one object is hold down Shift, or you can just highlight them both. Holding down Alt Option will allow you to copy, make a direct copy of these. So I'm just making copies. The reason why I'm making copies is I'll show you, we're going to be using the Pathfinder tool to get different effects. Okay, so for the first one, let's talk about the Pathfinder tool a little bit. First of all, the Pathfinder doesn't actually find paths. It sounds like it does, but it may create new ones from existing shapes, but the name can kind of be misleading to anyone who's beginning in Illustrator. The panel itself here is divided into 2 rows. So you see the top row is the shape modes and the bottom row is Pathfinders. So let's start at the top row from left to right, okay? The top left, note now, if you have your tooltips turned on, you'll notice that a couple of the buttons are called one thing in the tip, but another in the edit menu when you undo. So unite is the same as add, minus front is the same as subtract. Just so you know, you'll get different names for some of these tools, but they mean the same. So step 2 is we're gonna kind of refer to this diagram that we're gonna create to see the 4 shape modes and how they work. So first of all, the first one, we're going to highlight both of these items and click the first one, Unite. So what does that do? It combined these shapes. All right, now the second one, let's click the second one and see what it does. Subtract or minus front. The third one is intersect. And the fourth one is exclude. So you can see I got 4 different looks here by using the 4 shape modes. Now add or unite combines all the selected objects and merges them into one single shape, which is what it did here. If the objects are different colors, the merged shape takes on the attributes of the one on top. So the topmost object, which in this case was the red star. Then subtract and minus, what this does in the shape mode is it uses the top objects as sort of a cookie cutter to subtract the shapes from the bottom object. All right, and then the third one is the intersect. This deletes everything that does not overlap and it combines the rest into a single shape. So in this case, it's hard to tell because of my points, but it would have cut off more of the tips if the star was a little larger than the circle. And then the exclude does the opposite of intersect. It just, instead of getting rid of everything that isn't overlapping, it gets rid of everything that does overlap. So the resulting shape becomes more of a compound path. So we can see that each shape mode does something different. So of course you can use the shape modes with more than just 2 objects. It's really important to remember the stacking order, because remember, it depends on what's on top and what's on the bottom. So refer to the, you can refer to these images as kind of your guideline, or it can be trial and error, but it will save you time if you kind of are familiar with what each one does, okay? So the add, so if I added another shape behind it, the resulting shape will take on the color attributes of the topmost object, just like we talked about. And then with each one, just kind of how we summarize that. Let's see. Now let's talk about the pathfinders. So I'll get rid of these, because we've talked about these already. Let's talk about these pathfinders. There are, let's see, 6 of them. So we only need 6 circles. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Now, onto the bottom row of this panel right here. The images below here are going to demonstrate which each one does. So we're going to click on this one and click on divide. Okay, so what divide does, so probably the most often used is divide, because divide cuts the artwork into separate pieces. So it doesn't look like anything was different, but if I right click and ungroup, now each little piece has been cut. You see that? It takes the shapes that are intersecting, and it makes little pieces out of them. Kind of interesting, huh? The effect that you can get. So this is divide. Divide cuts the artwork into separate pieces wherever the shape overlaps. So color attributes of the original shapes are not changed. After dividing, you can use the direct selection tool, this one right here. And you can also unplug the shapes and move them with the selection tool. So you can cut, like I unplugged them here, can just move them out, and you get a really cool design. Now, I used divide to create my cat face, and the way that I did that, I'll move this down. The way I did this was I grabbed an ellipse tool, and I used my eyedropper tool, which is here, and I selected the gray that I wanted to copy from the image. Now I need 2 circles. So in this case, I'm going to bring this up here, and this one's going to be my light gray. So by selecting these 2 circles and making sure my light gray is on the top, I'm going to click on the divide button. Right click, ungroup. Ungrouping them will allow me to delete that extra piece. So now I'm still left with this little, as you can see, if I separate the pieces, it'll be as though they were divided. But in this case, this now becomes my light gray piece. I can combine both of them by grouping them, by right-clicking, select group. So now they become one piece. And I can ungroup them at any time by right-clicking and selecting ungroup. But I'm going to keep them grouped because I need to do another light circle. So I'm going to grab another light gray, and this is going to be for the bottom part of this cat. So I want a little tiny gray piece here. I'm going to select these 2 pieces and click divide again. Right click, ungroup, and then this will allow me to delete that outermost part. So now I have the basic face for the cat. You see how I did that? And that's the only part of the cat that I had to use the Pathfinder tool for. But it was the divide tool that I used. Are there any questions about how I got that effect? All good. Okay, very good. So let's look at what trim does. So now by holding down these 2 items, if we click trim, what trim does is, I'll move it up top here so we can see, it removes the parts of the objects that are overlapping. So in this case, it kind of, remove this here. So now these are all parts as well. if they're overlapping or hidden. If the objects are stroked, trim removes the strokes. So it does not merge objects with the same color attributes. So it's similar to divide, but it will have a different effect if your object has a stroke on it, okay? All right, let's look at the next one. Here's the next one. This is going to be merge. So if I merge, now this becomes one object. I cannot ungroup them. They have merged together. So by merging it, it basically makes a stamp. So depending on the shapes that you start with, you might think that merge does exactly what trim does, but merge has one exception, however. It does merge overlapping objects filled with the same color, regardless of the stacking order. So if this star was purple too, it would have merged them both together. All right, so you can play along with that and kind of see what it does and see the different effects it can give. Let's look at, let's see what's next. Crop is next. We'll grab the star here and we'll click on the crop button. Now crop uses the topmost object to crop away everything else. Think of it as an inverse cookie cutter. It also removes strokes. So in this case, that circle disappeared and the star turned purple. So it's kind of an inverse cookie cutter, essentially. That's what that one does. Let's look at outline. So this is another Pathfinder that at first glance may seem to do nothing, but if you look closer, let's go to it, let's do the crop, or I'm sorry, we're on outline. But if you look closer, you'll see that it's sort of like divide, only instead of individual shapes, the result is individual line segments. So ungroup. Now I can move these line segments out of the way. So they're not shapes, they're just the segments of the line. So kind of the outline view here. All right, even the tips of the stars have been segmented. See that? I'll zoom in a little bit more so you can see. All right, so that's what outline does. And it's kind of self-explanatory. Outline obviously looks like it's been outlined. All right, and the last one is minus back. So minus back does the opposite of minus front or subtract. So anything overlapping and in back of the frontmost object goes away and you're left with what's left. All right. Try these Pathfinders on several combinations of shapes to kind of get a feel for them. I want you to practice with them this week. Once you start incorporating them into your workflow, you might want to tweak things a bit, but click the flyout menu here so you have it on the side of the Pathfinder panel, right here. And this will bring up the options. So Pathfinder options, here we go. You can set other Pathfinder options, but just kind of play around with what each one does, okay? We won't get into the Pathfinder options a little too much, but I just wanted to show you what each one does. So the one Pathfinder tool that I did use on the cat's face is divide, because I wanted to create this effect. The next thing I did was I grabbed my star tool and I gave the star 3, hit OK. That gives me my triangle. I selected the gray using my eyedropper tool. And what's neat about these shapes is that if you click your direct selection tool, hold down on these little circles that you see, and this will allow me to round my corners a bit. So I'm going to round these corners for my ears. I'll show you a time-saving trick when you are doing this. You don't have to draw each individual shape. Once you have a basic shape, you can just copy and paste it and then just rotate it at the right angle. So the way that I did this is I will hold down Alt Option. You'll know that it's working when you see a black and white arrow. They look like twins. That means you're about to copy something. I'm going to bring it down. This one I'm going to make orange for the inside of the ear. And I'm going to hold down my Shift button and scoot it up until it gets to the bottom of that gray triangle. Then I'm going to make a copy of these two by selecting both of them. You can select them both by holding down Shift and clicking on each one, or you can click and drag your mouse around both items. Hold down Alt and Option. This will allow me to click and drag a copy, so I don't have to draw each ear from scratch. I'm also going to take these triangles. I'm going to click one, hold down Alt Option, and I'm going to use my eyedropper tool, and this is where I'm going to create the eyes and the nose. Now, if you hover over the corners of your triangles, you'll see how the mouse changes to a curved double arrow. This will allow me to rotate my shapes. If you hold down Shift as you rotate, it will lock it into a 45-degree angle, a 90-degree angle, or 135-degree angle. It will kind of lock it into to keep things angled correctly, but you don't need to be too precise for this one. I just kind of angle it, eyeball it. I want to bring this in a little bit. I'm going to adjust the shape of the nose. I'm going to grab my direct selection tool and round this out a little bit more. So that's my nose. I'm going to rotate it down a little bit. Once I have these down, I'm going to make a copy, hold down Alt Option. Now I've got my face. So now I can start placing them. So I'm going to make them nice and small. And now with your template on, you can see where you need to place your items, okay? Just kind of get them angled where you want on the face. Make sure you have your template visible so you can get a general idea of where you want to put it. So once I have it the right size and roughly the right place, I'm going to hold down Alt Option and drag it across. And I can kind of rotate it to be angled the other direction. And then I'm going to hold down Alt Option, click and drag, and this is going to become the nose. Now for the nose, I'm going to change the shape up a little bit, just slightly. Let me make it a little smaller. All right, so now I've got my triangles in place, except the ears. This is what I'm going to need. Boop. And then hold down, or I'm sorry, just hover over the corner anchor points to kind of get your ears placed where you want them to. If you hold down right click, arrange, send to back, that will send them to the back layer. Okay. I'm going to do the same with these ears. So I already have them, they're already drawn. I just need to kind of angle them, hit right click, send to back. So I want this in the back, but I want my ears to show up pretty nicely. All right. And then now we're going to draw some ellipses. Now in this case, we don't have to hold down the Shift button when we click and drag. I want them to be skewed, but I need to grab my eyedropper tool and select the right shade. I'm going to need quite a few of these actually. So I'm going to size this down where I need it to be, rotate it so it lines up with this eye here. Hold down Alt Option and draw, or click and drag, and then I'm just going to rotate it to the other side. It's already starting to look really nice. I'll hold down Alt Option again, click and drag, and this will become the cheeks. Now I need to kind of expand it a little bit. I'm going to kind of adjust the shape and the size. Then I'll hold down Alt Option. The idea here is to save you time by using Alt Option to copy and paste your shapes. Once you have changed the properties and the size of a shape and you can reuse it on the other side, that's when you'll copy it. So make sure you do the color changes on just one. Make sure the spacing between these objects are even. It should be Alt on a, or Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC. It's the button in between your Control and Command. It's at the bottom left. Do you see that? It's also Alt, labeled Alt, but it's Alt on a PC. So we'll just hold that. So what I want to do is kind of proportionately get these lined up as best I can. Did you find it, Heather? Oh, great. Okay, good. We're in business. All right, so I kind of placing these shapes will give your character some character as well because it's starting to come alive. Now I need to draw my line. So what I'm going to do is grab my arc tool, which is above my shapes on the toolbar. It's the arc tool that you see right here. I'll have that selected. Hold down Shift. And here's where I want to give it a stroke. I want to give it a black stroke, and I want to increase the stroke weight to about 3 or 4, or sorry, let's see, probably 5. Then next to it, you can adjust the variable width profile by giving a different shape. So I'm going to click on this one because I like the shape it makes. This is going to be the whiskers. And I'm going to grab that color that I'm trying to copy with that charcoal gray. And then I'm going to hold down Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC. And I'm going to just kind of rotate this until it gets about where I need it to be. Kind of line it up as best you can. Then you'll hold down Alt Option, and you'll do the same. Kind of just rotate it. And it might take a little bit of eyeballing to make sure you've got it right where you want it to be, and the spacing is decent. With that same tool, the arc tool, I'm going to click and hold down Shift. Remember, we're going to constrain our proportions. I'm going to give this stroke probably a little bit lesser stroke than the first, so probably about 3-point stroke. And I'm going to make this the line of the nose. This will require me to kind of resize it a little bit. But once I have it placed, I can make a copy of that by holding down Option. Go up here up top at your drop-down menu, Object, Transform, Reflect. And this will allow you to change the vertical axis by 90 degrees. So hit OK. And it now reflects the image, so it pops it into place for me. So now I've got my cat laid out, and I think he looks pretty darn cute. So are there any questions about how I got this effect? As this will conclude our assignment 1 for today. Nope. Okay. Well, I want you to have fun with this. It's meant to be creative. When you're all done, I believe you're supposed to submit a PDF. Let's see. You save your Illustrator file for your records, and you're going to submit your native file for grading. So we won't be doing a PDF. You will just be submitting your Illustrator file. So you'll just save it. Make sure it's saved correctly. Yeah, it is a lot of information, but that's the beauty of the recording. So it'll be there. And let's see, I think that's all. But if you have any questions at all this week, just make sure that you email me. Remember, we're only submitting our Illustrator files, so you won't have to convert the files to PDF or anything at this time. And we will, I'll just grade your work. What I'm going to be checking for is, do you have 3 separate artboards? Did you draw the shapes? Are the shapes the correct size? And then did you follow the template? Did you set up your layers? I'm going to be looking, did you set up the layers correctly? Remember, we went over how to do that as well. And what email can you use? That's a great question. You can reach me at teresa.woodland@independenceuniversity.edu. All of my contact information is in the syllabus. So if you'll look here, I'll show you, I'll give you a little tour of our home page. So you see here is our class. If you go to the home page, or I'm sorry, syllabus, all under course info or instructor contact information, if you click that, all of my information is here. If you're going to telephone me, text or call is welcome. Just make sure you do it during the office hours. Otherwise, I won't be able to respond right away. But if you email me, I can respond at any time. So please email me at this email address. And again, I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. I'm pretty quick on the email though. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help. So stay in touch with me if you have any trouble at all with the software, with your computer, whatever it is, with the assignment itself, I'd be happy to help. So remember, on Thursday, go ahead and get a start now, because on Thursday you can come bring your questions to the multi-session. We'll have, I'll be able to help you there as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I needed. Oh, there's one thing. Let me switch gears here. Give me just a minute. I closed out of it on accident. You'll be going to California, huh? That's pretty exciting. All right, so I wanted to talk one more thing about this assignment before I set you free. Orange County is cool. Are you just business or pleasure? Spring break, that's awesome. That is so fun. Okay, so let's talk about the assessment a little bit. We didn't talk about this earlier in our lecture, but I wanted to let you know that assessment 1 is a quiz. It's based on week 1's teaching sessions, readings, and videos. So please make sure that you watch them. You will have unlimited time to answer the 7 multiple choice questions, and you have a 250-word essay question in this quiz. So make sure that you watch your spelling and your grammar. But be very careful to read the question. To help discourage cheating, some questions will seem like others, but the values have changed, or what is asked for is changed. So be sure that you know that the question is what it's asking for and the values to use. So again, this is to help keep everybody honest, but this is what you'll expect for assessment 1. So make sure you're keeping up on the class readings. All right, and we talked about the assignment a little bit. Please pay attention to the dimensions and how many artboards you need. That is a huge part of this assignment. We talked about artboard 1, what to include. We also talked about artboard 2. This I want you to get creative with. You can have as many shapes on this page as you want. I just want to make sure, are they proportionate? You'll be graded on are they proportionate? Did you hold down the shift button when you were resizing them? Make sure that the type of stroke is it does say to give each size a different color or type of stroke, so you can change the stroke. And let me show you where to do that. I believe that's one thing we didn't go over today. So on artboard 2, which is where I'm at here, you're going to need to give it a stroke. So for my sun, just so that you can see it, I'll give it a stroke of dark orange. I'm going to increase the stroke weight right here up at the top. If you don't see this, go to Window and click on Stroke. And you'll be given a lot of options here. You can adjust the weight right here. So you make it really thick or thin. You can give it a dashed line by clicking on the dashed part. It kind of gives it a different effect there. You can adjust how many points. So if you want the dashed line to be a lot, oops, sorry. If you want more dashes, decrease the number. If you want fewer dashes, increase the number. You see that? So that's where you would add dashes. This is where you'd add stroke weight, like this. And if you don't see it at the top here, it's just a matter of how your default settings are. You can get all of these settings up here by going to Window, Workspace, and click on Essentials Classic. That will allow you to see what the layout that you see me working in. But again, it's just all personal preference. You don't have to do that. But for the assignment, it does ask you to play around with the strokes of the shapes a little bit. All right, and then let's go back to just a few more housekeeping things, just so I make sure you all understand. You can also combine shapes if you'd like for a more interesting design. So use the Pathfinder tool. This is an excellent place to practice. Then arrange the shapes into an interesting design on the artboard, okay? So practice with stroke and color and size. And then you can, again, use the Pathfinder tool to combine shapes. On the third artboard, we're gonna have a lot of fun trying to copy a template. So use the template that was provided under assignment 1. There's quite a few. You only choose one, okay? We don't need to do all of them. We're not gonna get crazy. No one's trying to be a hero. So just pick one. There are quite a few to choose from. I demonstrated how to do the cat, the gray cat. I don't know which one it's named as under the assignment, but that's the one I demoed. But here are your options. There's a lot of them. They're super cute, lots of fun. You could even challenge yourself and see if you can come up with how to do it. Have you guys thought about which one you're going to do? Not yet? Well, you have all week to decide. Cat number 2, that's a good one. And then Apple's asking, are the class readings the info on the discussion page? No, they are not. So let me show you, Apple, where you can find it. It's a great question. We are going to go to the course homepage. So your readings are going to be under, let's go to home. You're going to go to week 1. And then, yeah, you have your discussion 1, and then you'll have your week 1 introductions. Don't forget to do those as well. Course media is right here. So under course media is where you find the week 1 media, week 2, week 3, week 4. So this is what you're going to be graded on the quizzes. So you'll read we watch the welcome video, how to use the exercise files, how to send feedback. That's an introduction, and then chapter 1. Chapter 2, Chapter 3. So you'll use the Lynda playlist, the Student Access Portal this is required. So you're going to use that for Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4. So there are 5 chapters this week that will talk about these things that we covered. It tells you the length of the video. So if you only have 10 minutes that day or in between your lunch break or whatever, you can just kind of gauge how many videos you can get through. Some are pretty short, like 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 minute, 44 minutes, or 44 seconds. So you can kind of peruse this, but you will need to click on the video. So you'll visit the student portal here to get through these 5 chapters for the week. Week 2 has its own set of things you'll need to learn. So again, this is kind of do it on your own, and this is what your assessment will be over. So make sure that you get these readings, watch the videos, and does that help a little bit, Apple? Does that help direct you where to go? That's a very good question. Not all students are familiar where to go for the readings, so maybe just remember, click on course media, and that will take you to your weekly media information. Great job. Okay. Any other questions while we're talking about where to find things and how to do things? Okay, so for the assignment, I just wanted to emphasize no PDFs are necessary. Please submit a Illustrator file and then submit it for grading, obviously, but make sure it's saved. First and last name, DES, assignment 1. This will help me be able to give you some feedback as well. Then we demoed how to do this, how to do the shapes tools, selection and move tools we talked about, Pathfinder tool, how to change the fill and stroke. So we went over all that. Okay, are there any questions before we end? We have reached the end of our lecture. Yay. Hopefully you had fun doing this and following along. This is meant to be a fun assignment. So, all right, well, if there are no questions, you are free to go. I will see you on Thursday, hopefully. If not, stay in touch and let me know how I can help you. All right, thanks, Apple. Thanks, Heather. Thanks for coming.